Hey everybody, Norm here again, talking about LabVIEW 2025 Q3 feature enhancements. This time we're diving into other languages associated with LabVIEW, in this case, dotNET Core. So just as a quick primer for those of you who didn't know, like I didn't originally, there's kind of two different versions of dotNET that are out there. There's dotNET Framework that exists that's been around for a long time, and some of them like maybe dotNET 6. There's kind of a overlap of dotNET Framework and dotNET Core. And so all the versions of dotNET going forward are always going to be core based, but there's some very significant architectural differences between those two individual kind of frameworks of dotNET. And of course, LabVIEW has been able to interop with dotNET in a couple different ways leading up to this point. You were able to kind of take a LabVIEW VI and kind of turn it into a dotNET callable assembly. So it just looks like another function in dotNET. Or you could do the other direction where you could have dotNET called from within LabVIEW. So if you had some libraries in dotNET that could do a thing. Also, there's features in dotNET Framework where you can even put a dotNET control on your front panel. All different interesting things available with dotNET Framework. But dotNET Core, we have been investing in Q1, we made it possible to call into dotNET Framework, dotNET Core, but we were missing some features, and so we're continuing to try to gain parity with dotNET Framework. So I'm going back and forth on this one a little bit, but what we implemented in this latest feature is the ability to do a dotNET callback. So for those of you, once again, familiar with dotNET, some of this nomenclature is going to be very familiar, some of it might not be, but let's go ahead and just dive into the code and see if we can kind of describe it from there and just look at the feature in general. All right, so I've got a chunk of code here that is doing something very unique to dotNET that you can't get for free in LabVIEW, and that's a file system watcher. This is pretty interesting because what the file system watcher is, once you've enabled it and you've pointed out a very specific path on your hard drive, it fires events every time that something in a specific directory that's being watched changes. This is like a huge feature that I was like, why did I not know about this? Because if I was doing something where I wanted to know when a new VI arrived, or if I was logging data to disk, and how could I know when a new file was created so I could clean it or was closed or deleted, all these things. Really neat feature that you can get by using dotNET. Now, the ability to have a file system watcher is indeed a dotNET Framework feature. It's a feature that you can just have on your Windows system, but of course it exists in dotNET Core. And if you're gonna have an application, you kind of want to keep everything operable. So this is I have instantiated the dotNET system here. I have set an individual property on it. And this register for event callback might look similar to what you would use if you were doing a LabVIEW event dynamic registration, but it's different. It's very, very different in kind. You can see if I were to, let's actually do this a little bit here. If I went to an event structure, actually, where is that? It's on the user input here, events, register for events nodes. This is something that is a LabVIEW specific node. It's for LabVIEW events, and you can kind of see the difference. They still have a little bit of the same glyph in the upper left-hand corner, that little satellite dish that you can see there. But this register event callback is not to go to a LabVIEW event structure. It's to register for an event in LabVIEW that's fired in something .NET. Of course, we've had that in, once again, .NET Framework, and then actually even ActiveX predating that one. But what you do in this situation, let me see if I can. So what we're looking at here is, as I click on the event registration callback, you can see all of the available events, the kind of the user events, not UI events. There's a difference in .NET language, but these are the user events that can now be, that the .NET assembly will fire at specific times, like when something is created or something is deleted or changed on disk. Once again, this is just an individual .NET assembly that we're looking at here, but this is so helpful. And I'm so grateful that we've got it now in 2025 Q3, because now it gives me the ability with .NET Core and other types of things, other types of .NET assemblies, and it gives me the ability to go ahead and call a VI when a very specific event happens. Now, this is the way that you would normally interact with this. I have a very specific event that I've registered for, And then I have a callback VI. Now in this case, I'm using the exact same VI. It doesn't have to be the same VI for each of them, but this is the VI that's going to be fired. And the way that you create that VI in the first place, like, because you can't use any sub VI to get called, it has to have a very specific prototype, because as you can kind of see as this alignment between that connector pane and these things that are on the panel, this is the effective prototype that bolts into dotNET. dotNET or LabVIEW knows how to call a VI that has this specific prototype, so it gets automatically created for you, and then you can kind of do a whatever on the block diagram to access information about the event to do other things. Now in my case, I'm extracting information, I'm turning it into a JSON string, I'm adding it, sorry, I was hiding it there. I'm adding it to a notifier, an event. So nothing too fantastic about what I'm doing there. But the really interesting part of it is if you were to, when you do this whole interaction, well, I'm going to hold off on teaching you about dotNET events in LabVIEW. If you want to know more, put it into the chat. I love this event registration system and all the interesting things that you can do. But just as a last note, you go ahead and you right click on that VI reference, and there's a new option there that says create callback VI. Go ahead and look at more of the LabVIEW help examples that talk about creating callback VIs and things that you can do with it. But once again, let me know if you want to know. I can do a whole knowledge bomb talking about dotNET callbacks and go forward from there. But most importantly, that is now a feature that is enabled in 2025 Q3. And if I were to go ahead and run this here, I think, what is it? If I were to create a file, it's going to put it in the LabVIEW temporary directory. So if I just do make file, you can see that the information has been fired, the VI has been caught, it turned it into JSON in a cluster, and it sent it into what was being caught here in terms of my queue and notifier in that exact same VI. So an interesting VI all the same, an interesting behavior with this specific .NET assembly. But really, most of all, it's a testament to us continuing to try to connect your workflows to other languages to make sure that that works and it works well and it has the features that you need. And we're going to continue to push forward with .NET, adding more features to make sure that, once again, not only can we do what we can do, but maybe we can get .NET controls back on the front panel, that we can build VIs into, say, .NET core assemblies, and more features are queued up that we're looking to invest in. So let us know what you're looking for first, and we'll go from there. I'll see you in the comments and in the next videos. Thanks.